Introduction to Services Marketing. The paradigm shift and economic realities of service. For years, companies viewed service as a necessary evil or a cost center, something to deal with after a sale was already made. The core goal of the business was selling the product. Service was just a reactive back office team task with fixing things when they broke or answering angry phone calls. The core idea here is that service was triggered only when something went wrong. Companies tried to minimize service costs rather than using service to drive revenue or customer loyalty, and that the service team operated in a vacuum with little communication or impact on product design, sales strategy, or executive decision making. As we go on, you will see that this is no longer the case today. The new view, an omnipresent touchpoint. In the modern experience economy, service is no longer confined to a support ticket or a repair visit. Instead, it is recognized as an omnipresent touchpoint, meaning every single interaction a person has with a company shapes their perception of service quality. Service is not a specific team's job description. It is the operational philosophy of the entire organization, from product engineering to billing and marketing. Rather than waiting for something to break, companies use continuous touch points to add value, predict customer needs, and prevent friction before it happens. Acquiring new customers is expensive. Treating service as a holistic experience drives retention and long term loyalty, making it a primary driver of recurring revenue and profitability. For example, Apple. Consider how a customer experiences a modern tech brand like Apple compared to a traditional vendor. In Apple, every interaction is service. For example, in browsing the website, clean, intuitive user interface design or UI design and instant chat support serve the customer during discovery. In store experience, there are no traditional cash registers or isolated complaints desks. Employees on the floor greet customers, answer questions, and check them out anywhere in the store. In unboxing and software, the packaging design, the seamless setup process, and automated software onboarding are engineered to deliver a delightful service experience. In post purchase support, if an issue arises, Genius Bar appointments, self service repair options, and active online communities ensure that support is frictionless. In this model, the customer never feels handed off to a separate transactional help desk. The product, the sales floor, and the billing process and the digital app all function together as a unified service delivery engine. On macroeconomic frameworks, the rise of servitization and service dominant economies. Modern developed economies have fundamentally shifted from product centric manufacturing to service centric models. In countries like the United States, service producing industries account for nearly 80% of total gross domestic product. Rather than viewing physical goods and services as separate entities, modern markets recognize that customers buy outcomes, uptime, and experiences, not just hardware. I repeat, not just hardware. To capture this value, traditional manufacturers undergo servitization. Instead of relying on one off, low margin transactions from selling physical assets, firms attach long term maintenance, predictive monitoring, software subscriptions, and consulting contracts to their hardware. For example, in the case of healthcare technology, say for instance, companies like GE Healthcare and others. Medical device manufacturers rarely sell just an MRI or CT scanner. The service value comes when hardware sales are bundled with multi year service contracts featuring 24/7, yes, 24/7 remote diagnostic monitoring, staff training modules, and software analytics subscriptions. These long term operational contracts often generate far more lifetime profit than the scanner's initial purchase price. The tangibility spectrum and core service traits. To analyze the marketplace, managers must understand that products are rarely pure goods or pure services. To manage market offerings effectively, businesses rely on two foundational concepts: the tangibility spectrum, where an offering sits between physical goods and intangible services, and the IHIP framework, which we're going to discuss in the next few slides, which refer to the four core traits that make services uniquely challenging to the market. This table shows us how market offerings lie along what we call the tangibility spectrum. So we have what we call pure goods, which are tangible dominant. These are physical items that you can touch, store, and evaluate before you buy them. For example, food, furniture. And then we also have hybrid offerings. So, just like the term implies, it's a combination of goods and services. So, equal combination of goods and services. For example, a restaurant delivers physical food, but the core value relies heavily on the quality of cooking, the atmosphere, and table service. And then on the other side would now be what we call intangible dominant or pure services. So performances or experiences that yield no physical ownership. For example, management consultancy services and therapy services and, well, similar services. We now move on to the IHIP framework. And in your module, this IHIP that we refer to are considered as the four unique characteristics of services. Because services lean toward the intangible side of the spectrum, they possess four distinct characteristics that fundamentally separate service marketing from product marketing. So we have intangibility. Services cannot be seen, tasted, felt, or touched before purchase. So, what's the challenge here? Customers face higher risk. Managers must provide tangible cues, for example, clean offices, professional uniforms worn by the employees, and also user reviews. So, for example, you cannot try out a knee surgery or legal representation before actually buying it. Next is on heterogeneity. In some books, this may now refer to inconsistency. Service quality varies because it depends on who provides it, when, and where. The challenge to the company is that it's hard to maintain strict quality control. It relies heavily on employee training and standardized processes. For example, two haircut appointments at the same salon can yield different results depending on the stylist's skill or mood on that particular day. Another would be inseparability. Production and consumption happen simultaneously. The customer is often present during the delivery. you cannot be in two different places, right? Like when you get the services of a dentist, you have to be present. The dentist also has to be present. So the frontline employee is the brand. Customers directly influence their own service outcome. For example, an airline flight is produced by the crew and consumed by the passenger at the exact same moment. You cannot be in two different places. Lastly, we have perishability. Unused service cannot be stored, saved, or resold for later use, unlike products or goods. The challenge to the company is that managing demand fluctuations is critical. Empty capacity represents lost revenue forever. For example, an empty seat on a departing flight or an unused hotel room tonight loses its revenue potential permanently. Of course, tomorrow is another day. The expanded services marketing mix. The traditional marketing mix consists of the standard four P's, which are product, price, place, and promotion. While effective for stable physical consumer goods, these four variables are insufficient to manage the interactive, human driven nature of services. Because services are intangible, produced live, and heavily dependent on human interaction, the traditional four P's may fall short. To manage the full customer experience, marketers expanded the framework into the seven P's by adding people, physical evidence, and process. Of course, I am certain that you still know by heart what are the four P's of marketing. Let us now discuss the three new service P's. First would be people. People refer to everyone involved in delivering the service, particularly employees who interact directly with customers. Since customers often judge the quality of a service based on their interaction with employees, their attitude, appearance, competence, and responsiveness are very important. For example, in a hotel, a guest may book a beautiful and affordable hotel. But if the front desk staff are rude, slow, or unhelpful, the guest may still consider the overall service poor. On the other hand, friendly and professional employees can create a positive experience. People can make or break the customer service experience. The next P is physical evidence. Physical evidence refers to the tangible elements that customers can see, touch, or experience that help them evaluate an otherwise intangible service. Because you cannot physically examine a service before purchasing it, customers often use these physical clues to judge quality. For example, in a restaurant business, customers may judge a restaurant not only by its food, but also by its cleanliness, interior design, furniture, table settings, uniform of employees, menu design, and even the appearance of the restroom. A clean and well designed restaurant creates an impression of quality and professionalism. I personally check the comfort room first if it's my first time going to a restaurant. The cleanliness of the restroom for me matters. If I can also peep into the kitchen, if customers are allowed, I would want to do that as well. Next is on, let's say, university. This perhaps is an experience that you can relate to. Students may also associate quality with modern classrooms, clean facilities, laboratories, faculty rooms or offices, student lounges, uniforms, and even the university's website and online learning platform. So, physical evidence gives customers something tangible that represents the quality of an intangible service. Lastly, we have process. This refers to the procedures, systems, and sequence of activities used to deliver the service. Customers generally value a process that for them is convenient, fast, clear, and consistent. For example, in a bank, imagine two banks offering similar services. In Bank A, opening an account requires several forms, multiple queues, and repeated verification. While in Bank B, customers can complete most requirements online, receive clear instructions, and finish the process quickly. Even if the actual banking product is similar, customers may prefer Bank B because of its better process. I personally have tried calling customer service of a certain bank and having to wait for almost an hour just for one question that needs an answer for me was really inconvenient. Another example is during enrollment. I'm sure you still remember your experience in enrolling. A university with an efficient enrollment process, one that has online registration, clear instructions, digital payment, and quick confirmation. This provides a better experience than one where students have to visit several offices and repeatedly submit the same documents. Process determines how easy, efficient, and consistent it is for customers to receive the service. The key point is that services marketing is not only about what the customer buys, it is also about who delivers it, what the customer sees, and how the customer experiences the entire process. Moving on, we have the service package architecture. Service package architecture refers to the way a service is designed and structured as a combination of different elements that work together to create the customer's overall service experience. A service offering is best modeled as an integrated bundle of goods and services delivered within a designed environment. This bundle is formally known as the service package. A service package is not simply the main service being offered. It is an integrated bundle of tangible goods, intangible services, facilities, information, and customer experiences delivered within a particular environment. The service package architecture can be understood through four distinct elements: supporting facility, facilitating goods, explicit services, and implicit services. These elements work together to create the customer's total service experience. A useful way to explain them is to ask, what does the customer need to access the service? What tangible things are consumed? What service is actually performed? And what psychological or emotional benefits does the customer receive? Let us now go over these four distinct architectural elements. Number one, supporting facility. This refers to the physical resources or infrastructure that must be in place before the service can be delivered. These are the facilities that make it possible for the service to exist. They are not necessarily what the customer is primarily buying, but they provide the environment in which the service is delivered. For example, hotel. So, what are our supporting facility? We have the hotel building, the rooms, the lobby, parking area, elevators, and others. For example, a hotel cannot provide accommodation without rooms and an appropriate building. The room itself is part of the supporting facility that makes the accommodation service possible. So, what's the key question? What physical facility is needed to provide the service? The second distinct architectural element would now be facilitating goods. These are the tangible items that customers use or consume as part of the or as part of receiving the service. Unlike supporting facilities, these goods are generally consumed, used, or taken by the customer during the service experience. Going back to our hotel example, when staying in a hotel, facilitating goods may include toiletries, right? The soap, shampoo, okay? The drinking water, let's say the bed linens. These are our facilitating goods. The customer is primarily paying for the accommodation service, but these tangible items facilitate or enhance the experience. Imagine a hotel asking you to bring your own bed linens. So remember, a service package is much more than the core service. A successful service organization carefully designs all four elements because customers evaluate the total experience. Again, customers evaluate the total experience, not just the primary service that they paid for. So the key question here is, what intangible goods does the customer receive, use, or consume while receiving the service? The next element we have explicit services. Explicit services are the direct, observable benefits or outcomes that the customer receives from the service. These are the core services that the customer expects the organization to provide. They answer the question, what is the organization actually doing for the customer? Going back to our hotel example, explicit services include checking the guest in and out, cleaning the room, providing room service, making reservations, and responding to guests' requests. If you book a hotel room, you expect the hotel to provide a clean room, process your reservation, and provide accommodation. These are explicit services because they are directly experienced and expected by the customer. The key question, what specific service is the customer directly receiving? And lastly, we have implicit services. These are the psychological, emotional, or intangible benefits that customers experience as a result of receiving the service. They are not necessarily the primary service, but they strongly influence customer satisfaction. This may include feelings of comfort, security, prestige, convenience, confidence, relaxation, or belonging. So, our example again, the hotel. A guest receives more than a room and housekeeping. They may also experience security, feeling safe while staying at this hotel, comfort, feeling relaxed and cared for, the feeling of prestige, feeling important when staying at a high end hotel, most especially, and of course, privacy, having a personal space away from home. These are implicit because they are intangible benefits associated with the service experience. The key question, what does the customer feel or gain psychologically from receiving the service? Thank you for attending this session. Until next time.